Hi, Tara.
Hi, Vicky. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And how are you doing?
Good, thank you.
And hello to all of our viewers. Tara and I are talking about a particular question today, and it's partly because of this time of year, which is a pretty intense time of year for students at schools and for staff as well. And so the question that we're asking today is how do we take the pressure off? How do we take the pressure off in schools at this time of year? Tara?
Yes. Yeah, and it's really interesting. I must kind of make a note of this. I don't know if it's like an annual thing at this time of year, but it does seem familiar. But the conversations I was having with students and staff in schools today, Monday, and then, 4-day week before the long break, but everybody just sort of came in and was just so tired and just kind of like seemed like everyone just had enough. And yet there's deadlines and there's so many of the year groups have got tests this week and staff have got things that they need to do, marking that they need to do and it's but yeah, it just was like quite sad today to see how sort of tired, and we could think what difference, how will you be feeling on Friday when you have the day off. But as there's still pressure, there's exams coming, there's big exams coming, and yeah, there's always so much. And I was talking to a student today, and it was like, imagining what it would look like if you were to take some of that pressure off. And it's like, well, actually, I'm not going to. Okay. Um, because I want to do well. I want to do well. And, the pressures feels like external, but it's also coming from me. And I thought, wow, yeah, okay. So we started to talk about, well, what would it look like if you were to just to find tiny, 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 tiny moments in your schedule, over the break and after the short break, what would it look like if you were just to take a tiny moment within that might make a difference to you, that might feel like you're taking the pressure off, but you're kind of doing it on your terms.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting because as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking to myself, sometimes, like maybe for this student, he or she is saying, well, I am not going to take a break because I want to do well. And so sometimes knowing that they're going to dedicate themselves to their work over the weekend is actually a way of taking the pressure off. That suddenly they have these 3 or 4 days that they can devote to getting a lot done. And that in itself takes the pressure off. So that kind of speaks to how sometimes we want to sort of keep part of the problem,
Mm.
right? We want to actually face the pressure so that we can let out some of that steam and some of that pressure, right? Yeah.
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 Well, and interestingly, they were able to kind of reflect that even though they might want, not take that pressure off, and they were kind of thinking about those tiny moments, it's like, well, the difference it makes not having to get up at 6 a.m. to get to school, you know,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
and,
Exactly.
and that time.
And that does make a big difference,
Mm.
even if they can just sleep for an extra hour.
Yeah. Yeah. But it kind of made me think as well, having, because actually here in the UK, we'll have 2 weeks off. We'll have the 4 week, the 4-day bank holiday, and then we have 2 weeks off for the Easter holidays.
Oh,
And
oh, okay.
and it made me think about, what would be the tiny thing that I could do. I'm going away over the holidays, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I wouldn't be drawn to my emails and things like that. And I'm like, actually, what would be a tiny, tiny, tiny sort of change that I could do that would maybe take some pressure off? And it'd be to put my out of office on my.
Absolutely.
So, from that conversation and seeing how people are. feeling in schools and just acknowledging that, there's so much and there's a lot all of the time. But from that, I was like, I can do a tiny thing to take some pressure off too. So that's what I'm going to
It's a good reminder to us,
do.
right? It's a really good reminder to think about how we can slow down a little bit, even if it's just a little bit.
Yeah.
And yes, the out of office is a wonderful way. And it's interesting because somebody today, I was actually in the grocery store. I was standing in line at the cash, and I'm putting the items on the conveyor belt, and I guess I was moving pretty fast because I was in a hurry and I needed to get out of there. And the man behind me said, "You can slow down." And I looked at him and laughed, and I said, "Oh, it's in me." I said, "It's my internal clock. I'm just in a real hurry. I can't slow down. Like I gotta get back." Anyway, but so he said, "I'm going to give you a word for the day." And I said, "Really, what's that?" He said, "Patience."
Wow.
And I said, "Thank you. I I will remember that word today." So sometimes just even a little word
Yeah.
takes the pressure off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I was actually smiling as I was leaving the grocery store with all my bags, and I was thinking,
Yeah.
patience. Yeah, it's
Ah,
okay. We don't have to get everything
everything
done in
done.
1 second.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, what a gift. But yeah, I mean, that kind of makes it
Yeah.
like something that I'm similar to you, I'll be kind of at high speed most of the time, but something that I'm really intentional about and I kind of catch myself and I kind of have to bring myself back to it, but is actually to literally move slowly, to go about my everyday life at a much, much slower pace, walking around the house or walking somewhere, just like do it slowly, Tara. And that can make a real difference. And even though the pressurized things that I still need to do need to be done, but the fact that I've literally slowed down my whole body and my pace of movement, it just makes a whole difference to how I feel. So tiny, tiny, tiny things that we can do to take the pressure off. And thinking about that in a school corridor, do you know what I mean? A bit like us and our sort of corridor interactions, imagining that everybody was slowing down or just thinking about tiny things that they could do to take the pressure off, the difference that that would make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Tara.
Thank you, Vicky. I hope you have a wonderful pressure-free or a weekend with less pressure, even just a
Thank you.
time.
Thank you. Same to you.
And everybody else. Thanks for listening,
Likewise.
everybody. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.